Mike the cop. When can the police search me, my house, my car, my stuff, my purse, or European handbag, a man bag, without a warrant? Let's talk about that.
Look, all we're asking for is you guys to cooperate, okay?
How about a joke instead? Knock knock.
Who's there?
Come back with.
Come back with who?
Come back with a warrant.
Knock knock!
I got you. Yeah, I will defend my brothers. I will defend the weak. I will pursue and fight evil so others may sleep. I am the sheepdog, protecting the night. Wolf hunters unite. Bring it on. It's time to fight.
In the police academy, I recall the undersheriff in Wayne County coming in to teach our warrantless search class. He gave us 10 exceptions to the search warrant rule. And that's right, I said exceptions because the rule is that you need a search warrant. If you're going to violate someone's Fourth Amendment right, then you need to have a search warrant. And search warrants are based on probable cause. I'm not going to dive into all that, but sufficient to say it is the rule is having a search warrant. However, most of the time, most police officers aren't operating on getting search warrants. It happens, of course, and there are plenty of circumstances where it does. But for the most part, most police officers on standard patrol are operating on the exceptions to the search warrant rule to accomplish their job. These are perfectly legal. These are spelled out in all sorts of ways. You can find out and look into where they come from. More power to you. I'm just going to tell you what they are. It's actually relatively straightforward. And it comes down to this acronym called Beach PPIS. One quick caveat before I dive into that. That's not saying that officers are getting around the rule. It just means that these exceptions are the common ways in which searches are happening without the legal requirement to get a warrant. So I think there's a distinguishing facet that needs to be understood there. Moving on. The first, in Beach PPIS, border searches.
And it's going to be a real war. It's going to be a high war. It's going to be a beautiful. It's going to be a war that works.
Even though I work close to the Canadian border, even though I've been to Canada, I don't conduct border searches. I'm not a border agent. I'm not a Customs and Border Protection officer. That's where you'll find your car, your person is subject to search without a warrant when you're crossing a national border, not state to state, even though I would love to make sure everybody from Ohio gets searched thoroughly. It's not completely boundless. It's not a complete carte blanche, but it is a place where you can be subject to search without a warrant. The emergency exception to the search warrant rule.
I've fallen. And I can't get up!
Very often, police officers are called to check the well-being of someone. Let's say that they are in their home, they haven't been heard from. If there's certain circumstances that seem like there's an imminent threat to life or limb, then police officers may be able to enter that property, that vehicle, that business location without a warrant in order to make sure that someone's life or limb is saved. There's some caveats to that, but it's a pretty common sense way of approaching it. If there's an emergency and officers can help save someone's life in the process or limb, then they can go in. Administrative searches. These are things where you are agreeing by having a license, for example, like a liquor license. You own an establishment that has that, you're subject to the Liquor Control Commission or officers coming in to check your license and making sure that you are in compliance. OSHA would be another example of that. They can come in and inspect your place anytime they want. They don't have to have a warrant to come search. And there are situations where that crosses with law enforcement. They can come in and check your stuff because you are agreeing by having a license to such a search. So that's not, again, completely limitless, but it can mean that you could get your stuff searched without a warrant. Consent.
You're on tape for violating my rights. I do not consent. I do not consent.
That's right. Officers can simply ask you, can I search your car? Can I search this room? Would you mind if I search this drawer? Could I search your pants? Doesn't mean you have to say yes, but it also doesn't mean if you say no that there aren't other exceptions in place at that time that you're going to get searched anyway. Just a heads up. Next on our list is H, hot pursuit. Hot pursuit is when you are pursuing someone for a felony. Another sidebar, felonies are typically understood as punishments, crimes that have punishments of a year or more in prison. So let's say someone mugs someone, beats him over the head, takes a lady's purse, gets in a car, there's a police pursuit, the guy jumps out, runs into a house. Can they keep running into the house after them? The answer is yes, they can. They are in pursuit of a dangerous felon, and they can do that. Doesn't mean that they will do that. Could end up going in there. It could be a barricaded situation. They could decide that that felony isn't warranting continuing that pursuit for a variety of safety reasons, both for the victim or the officers or the general public. But that's hot pursuit. That would not apply to someone just stealing a bag of potato chips from the convenience store. You're not going to run after somebody and run into the house after them. Let's keep it simple. Next, probable cause and exigent circumstances when they go together. Typically, we find this in cases involving drugs or other contraband or evidence that could be destroyed unless that evidence is taken immediately. So let's say that you're on a call and someone is in their bathroom and there's probable cause to believe that there are narcotics in there that they would be flushing down the toilet, and you could enter that room and stop those drugs from being flushed down the toilet, because if you do not go in there, the evidence itself is going to be destroyed. So there are circumstances in which you have probable cause to believe there's a crime that's occurred and there's an exigent circumstance warranting you using tactics that don't involve a warrant. Next, plain view. Sometimes people just put it right out there for you to see.
How much weed's in this car?
None.
Why you always lying?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, weed is one thing, but I've seen people with crack rocks in a bag, like right next to the gear shifter, and be like, oh, license, registration, and is that crack in the bag? Oh, I don't know. It's not my car. Any illegal substance or item that is evidence of a crime in plain view doesn't require a search warrant. Next, inventory. Inventory happens when eventually your stuff is going to get towed. Inventory happens when your ride gets towed. That doesn't mean that you have to go to jail. It just means that for whatever reason, that vehicle is legally being towed by the police from one place to another. In order to stay on the up and up, that vehicle is typically, I don't know of any department that wouldn't do this, that vehicle has to be inventoried. There has to be a basic list of what kind of damage is in the vehicle inside and out, what kind of property is in the vehicle inside and out, so that it's a protection for the person whose property is being taken in the car and those that are taking it. So there's no accusation of theft or wrongdoing or damaging of property. So if you're riding around without a license and you might go to jail or get ticketed and you get your stuff towed, I wouldn't put anything in the car you don't want anybody to find. Closing in here with the last two S's. The first is search incident to arrest. That means if you go to jail, your stuff's getting searched. You, your pants, even if you say they're your friends, you don't know how they got there on your body. And I have pulled some weird stuff off of people in booking. Shrimp, human hair, teeth, a decomposing frog. Yeah, I don't know. You can't make that stuff up. There are some amazing stories about what people have brought into jail with them. And your stuff is getting searched when you go into jail. That bag that you have with you, purse, backpack, your pockets, all that stuff. And side note with searching, if it's a body cavity search, literally someone is going into a body cavity, that is required medical personnel in order to do. If it's just a search, it is going to typically be any officer can do it. And that includes males can search females, females can search males. Doesn't mean that that's how every department is going to do it, but legally it's allowed. Most departments, if there's going to be any type of further than a cursory check or a search of a person in booking, they're going to bring a female in to do a female, male to do a male. That's just a common practice, but it's not required in most places. And some departments don't have the staffing to be able to always make that happen, so it's not an option. Usually, if I'm going to search a female, I'm going to put that female in front of a camera, have an audio recording on. That way, if there's any accusations of wrongdoing, then there's video and audio evidence that it didn't happen. And just because you are maybe stripped down for a search, that is not a body cavity search. A strip search does not require medical personnel, so don't get those two things confused. Don't want to get off on a tangent. That's search incident to arrest. Lastly, we have stop and frisk.
What's this right here? That's your penis. All right.
This is also called commonly a Terry stop from the old case Terry v. Ohio. Essentially, the idea of a Terry stop or stop and frisk is that you have probable cause to believe that, quote, crime is afoot and that the subjects involved could be armed. And not could be in some distant universe, but you believe that they are likely armed. We could what if ourselves with all kinds of scenarios. That's a legal qualification for a Terry stop. There's been different applications of stop and frisk around the country. Some of that has been challenged in the courts and altered the way that it's practiced. And that's a whole other debate and discussion that I'm not getting into right now. Bottom line is, let's say that you put a weapon, a knife, in your pocket. If I'm frisking you and I feel that outline of a knife, that can develop into this idea of I'm aware of what a knife feels like, or bags of drugs, or items consistent with contraband. If you can feel that and you can articulate that from law enforcement experience as to what that likely could be, then that could result in a search that doesn't involve a warrant. Or just the very stopping and detaining of someone for the purpose of stop and frisk doesn't require a warrant to do, and is counted as an exception to the search warrant rule. There you have it. When can a law enforcement officer stop and search you, your car, your home, whatever, without a warrant? That's the exceptions. In those 10 instances, maybe there's more. I don't know. I'm not, technical genius or anything. But hopefully you learned something. Drop any further questions, comments, colorful hate statements, whatever you want in the comments below. I'll see you out there. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe and hit the notification button for my channel. If you want to find me off of YouTube, you can always add me on Snapchat, follow me on Instagram or Twitter, like my Facebook page, and if you really like me, you can also check out my store or my Patreon page.